Hi, everyone. This is Manny Velasquez. I am with Connections Magazine, and this is our second episode of Virtual Connections. Thank you for watching us. Today, we have a really awesome guest, somebody that I could actually say changed my entire life, and I'll explain how in a minute. But I'm going to introduce you to Barbara Golden. She is the communications manager for St. Augustine, Ponte, Vedra, and the Beaches Visitors and Convention Bureau. Did I get all that in?
You got that. It's a mouthful. Hi.
So, Barbara, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with the Conventions Bureau.
Sure. So I've been here in St. Augustine for almost 40 years. My husband is from St. Augustine. So when we got married, we moved here. We were living in South Florida, and when he brought me home to meet his mother, and we live in Fort Lauderdale because not unlike you, maybe when I saw the oldest city in the United States, having grown up in southern New Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia, with that great history, and Cape May, New Jersey, and that beautiful seaside town, it was just home to me. So when we moved here, I I worked in the tourism industry since I've lived here, between restaurants, marketing, for some of the attractions. I worked in another destination outside of St. Augustine, developing nature-based tourism, and then working with Amtrak covering statewide tourism. And when the position with the Visitors and Convention Bureau opened up with a communications manager, I was like, it was made for me. I love to talk about the history. I love working with media and journalists and people in general. I've always been a certified tour guide with the city of St. Augustine. So I felt like, thank goodness they had that job open, because I felt like that was where I needed to be, because I love this place so much, and I love sharing it, and I love working with people that can help me share it.
Well, I can definitely vouch for everything that you just said because it makes sense now. Because actually, when we first met, it was during a press trip to St. Augustine, which was last July, 2019, right. July of 2019. And we had some really great conversations about St. Augustine. We kept asking you questions and question after question, and you seem to have all of the answers, everything related to St. Augustine. So that was really good. And I say that the reason that meeting you changed my life is because some of our listeners and viewers may not know this, but right after that trip, my husband and I decided that we were moving our family to Florida. So now Barbara and I are actually neighbors. We're just a few minutes away from each other. And it was all because of that trip that I had last July, which like I mentioned, it literally changed our lives.
Well, I'm so glad. And you know what, Manny, I have to say your trip here was one of the most memorable too. I had a great time. Enjoyed meeting you and your whole family and sharing the great stories, because it was that trip had a few challenges on it, but you made it the highlight for us.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I remember, actually, speaking of challenges, one of the challenges that we encountered was that massive storm when we were at the Fountain of Youth. that was very interesting, but it was very Floridian, right? Apparently in the summer.
Now, weren't you supposed to go to the St. Augustine Aquarium?
Yes.
And you didn't get to go, did you?
No, we made it.
Yeah, you did. Okay.
We were supposed to go diving with I forget if
it was mermaids.
Yes, with someone. We were supposed to go diving with someone, but because of the thunderstorms that afternoon, it got canceled. But we were able to get a backstage tour of everything in the aquarium. They were super nice. Actually, I remember that one of the tour guys at the aquarium grabbed a huge umbrella from one of the tables nearby so that we could all walk around. So, because none of us had an umbrella, right? Because, hey, we're visitors. Why would we have umbrellas with us?
Right. And it's summer in Florida, and it rains every afternoon, but it usually stops a lot quicker than it did that day.
So tell me about that, because that's a really fun fact about Florida's summers.
Yeah, so the humidity is really high here. So in the summer, you're going to, the heat will build up during the day, and then in the afternoon, you will have these incredible thunderstorms. And sometimes they'll last all of 5 minutes, and sometimes they'll last a couple of hours. But it's just that we have a saying around here, just wait 5 minutes, the weather will change because it can go. And then after that storm, it's nice and cool and
It's
comfortable, and
beautiful.
it's almost like a relief from the buildup of the heat all day long.
It is definitely a welcome change. I really enjoyed it. We ended up walking with umbrellas right after that day just to have them ready because you never
You
knew
never
when that was going
know.
to hit you. Yep, yep. So tell me a little bit about St. Augustine. I mean, I know personally we did a lot of things during that particular trip. What are your highlights? What are your must visit?
So I think that because most importantly, it is the oldest city in the United States, and there is such a rich history here. Whether it goes back to the original Spaniards settling here in 1565, but there are so many different stories throughout our history, and there are a lot of ways to experience that. I particularly like working with families because to I like the fact that today people learn more about real history than we did when you and I were kids. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think some of the highlights here are, number one, the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park. That is where it all started. And it's really great, whether you're a kid at heart or a kid. You can go, they have a like a living history, and they have a timeline set up so that you can really experience from the Timucua Indians that lived here 5,000 years before the Europeans, or 500 years ago when the first Europeans started coming here. Whether it's through archaeology, cannon firing demonstrations, blacksmiths, storytelling, a sip of water from the Fountain of Youth. 70 here.
You're working.
Um, so that's one of my favorites. I also like the Castillo de San Marcos, which is the Spanish fort built, and it's right in the centerpiece of downtown St. Augustine on our bayfront. And it was built in 1670 to 1695. It was built to protect the city from the raiding pirates that were coming here. So it's the oldest masonry fortification in this country. So it protected the city because in the future after that, whenever pirates or the British or whoever was raiding the city, the townspeople would go inside the Castillo and they were protected. And the interesting thing about it that makes it very unique out of any kind of fortress or fortification is how it was built using coquina block, which is only found here
Okay.
um, in Florida and in the Caribbean and just a couple of little places, particularly in Puerto Rico, because the Castillo in San Juan is made of the same coquina block, but it didn't shatter. So that's why it stayed, because we were certainly attacked. Right across the street from that is the Pirate and Treasure Museum, which is a collection of authentic pirate memorabilia. And they do a great story of telling not just the stories, real stories of pirates in the Caribbean, but how the pirates that raided St. Augustine. So it's really kind of interesting. Another St. Augustine Lighthouse and Maritime Museum, because you can climb the 219 steps to the top. The yeah, it's a workout, but the view is unbelievable once you get up to the top, because you're looking out at the Atlantic and you can see how pristine and beautiful this whole part of the state is. It's not overbuilt with big skyscrapers and all of that. It's just beautiful landscape. And you can look down on the old city with the terracotta roofs. It's very Mediterranean looking.
So So I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I need to point this out. I am extremely afraid of heights, okay? But I made my way up to the top of the lighthouse, and it took me a couple of minutes to
You
gather
have to
myself.
pause now and then.
Yep.
I have to pause.
And my 9-year-old son grabbed my hand and he's like, "Daddy, I'll help you." And that
I
just
do.
kind of like,
Oh,
yeah, that just kind of
oh.
melted my heart. And so he walked me out, and he was telling me, he's like, "I'll get close. You can stay back." I'm like, "Okay." So we did that, and then eventually, like, he started pulling me little by little by little, and then I ended up
You
actually
close to the rail.
then I ended up actually staying. Yeah, and the views are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Once I got over that initial shock that I am so high up, I was able to fully enjoy it. It's absolutely beautiful. You're correct.
Yes. And you know, right now, this time of year, because you also right by the lighthouse is the St. Augustine alligator farm.
Hmm.
And when you're on that lighthouse at this time of year, all of those wading birds and tropical birds are all roosting and nesting at the alligator farm. Right now, there are thousands of birds nesting in the trees, and they go there because the alligators are in the lagoons underneath, and the lagoon underneath the trees, because the squirrels and the snakes and the raccoons and the possums can't get to the nests so the birds over time have learned this is a safe place for us to nest.
Right.
So right now the alligator farm just recently reopened to visitors, with practicing safe distancing and all of that. And that's a beauty here, is almost everything is in wide open spaces, so it's safe distancing. But anyway, this is the time of year that you're seeing all the nests, the hatchlings come out and all of that. It also is a little challenging once in a while when they leave the nests, but they seem to do okay. But that's another great view from up there in the lighthouse. A couple of other things that are great attraction wise are the Leitner Museum and Flagler College. They're spectacular to the Flagler era and the Gilded Age. That's another whole time period. And we have several other attractions like that. The Villa Zareta. So you can experience those different timelines. So from Old Spanish to the Maritime, 1800s, and into the Gilded Age. But even in modern day, something that is very, very popular and important to us is the natural, pristine outdoors. And you got to experience some of that when you were here visiting with me. I made Manny get on a paddleboard. It's like,
Let's not
and
tell
you can see
everybody
my
how many.
paddleboard right behind me.
It took a while for me to actually stand up. And I remember when I finally was able to stand up on it, and I was screaming to my husband, "Take the picture, take the picture, take the picture." And then as soon as he takes a picture, I hit the water. It was a fun day.
Now flash to that picture and show us, because it was awesome. Because what I really loved was you put the gay pride flag on, and that was incredible.
Show that
There it
again.
is. Yay!
There it is. See that it took a while for me to get that shot, but once I was up there, yeah, we were able
Well, I
to.
was really proud of you. The kids did it great. I mean, we were out there on the water for a couple of hours that afternoon. It was really a good time. I like to do that, and I know a lot of people that are really enjoy it here. And you can go paddle boarding, whether you're a first timer doing it. There are places that you can go that is very challenging. You can go out in the ocean. Me personally, I'm a distance paddler. I can go 8 or 10 miles, and I can go 8 or 10 miles in beautiful, pristine waterways around here. So
Wow.
it's such a refreshing place to be, and it's wide open, healthy, clean, and just really life is good.
Yes.